Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur. Welcome to my channel, and hey, I hope you all are spending time indoors, enjoying reading, watching movies, playing games, spending time with loved ones. Thank you for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Trust me, we're starting to go a little stir crazy here, and now we're hearing that it might be a couple more months that we're going to be indoors, but hey, you know what? We've gotten through 1 month already, so bring on the next month. Anyway, let's talk about the news and what is definitely going to pertain to Uber drivers. Now, this has been a whirlwind of the last couple weeks. The world has changed. We're doing things a lot differently now. And Uber drivers have been put in a very precarious position. And they always have been in a precarious position, but they are even more so because Uber drivers are independent contractors. At least in theory they are. They're not treated like independent contractors, but they are independent contractors. And when something like a pandemic happens, there are little to no protections. Now, in California, they're starting to push back a little bit because AB 5 passed, and I'm definitely thinking that the whole gig economy is going to be turned upside down, and we're going to definitely have to answer this question once and for all. What exactly happens to these independent contractors when something like this happens? Because some people are stating that, hey, you know what? I want to stay independent. I don't want to be at work. Okay, I get it. But you also have to get over yourself on this one. I'm sorry, you just do. Because look, right now with Uber drivers, we are in a very, very bad position. If you are an Uber driver, it's like you have no security whatsoever if you lose your job. And Uber and Lyft will not turn off the app. And here's the other thing. They are not obligated to give you anything. And then a lot of people, well, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let's backtrack just a second. One of the things that Uber and Lyft decided to do at one point is basically say, okay, if you catch the creepy crud that's in the air, like that's going on outside, then you will get paid 2 weeks sick time. Let's start with that. Hey, you know what? Politics aside, that's an admirable thing to do. They don't have to do it. They could give you nothing. Uberman Tampa pointed that out perfectly. I agree with that. But here's the problem. I personally questioned whether or not Uber was going to give up that money easily. I said there is no way this is going to be as easy to claim as they say. You know what? I was right. Because not only is Uber refusing, for the most part, to pay drivers a sick time, but in Australia at the very least, because this article's from Business Insider Australia, drivers are getting their accounts closed after they seek sick pay, and then the claims are still being ignored. So let's look at this real quick. Oh, look, I haven't seen that poster in a while. Brings back memories. So, Zachary Frennett has driven for Uber in Phoenix, Arizona for the past 2 years, earning diamond status and a 4.96 average rating during that time, while completing more than 4,300 trips in the past year alone. He's also HIV positive, meaning he has a weakened immune system that puts him at a higher risk of developing severe symptoms or dying from the C virus that's in the air. The disease caused, by that creepy crud. On March 18th, 2 of his passengers, both coughing and sneezing, said they had just left a relative's house who had tested positive for the virus, so Frennett immediately stopped accepting rides and went to his doctor, who wrote him a letter telling him to self-quarantine to limit exposure and potential spread of the virus. He then submitted that letter to Uber, which deactivated his driver account in an apparent effort to limit his contact with other passengers. Now, in all fairness, Uber said they would do this. They said they would do this. But think about the dilemma this has. If this is your only form of making money, you don't want to be honest about this because you will get your account deactivated. It will be deactivated. And yeah, it's for safety reasons. I acknowledge that. But, again, the catch-22, you're independent, but they're telling you that you can't work now. It's confusing. But anyway, hey, here's the thing. As he pointed out, my livelihood was in immediate risk. However, hey, let's be fair. Uber was going to give money, right? They said, hey, we have set aside some money for this so that if you get sick, you will be taken care of. You will be given like a couple weeks' pay. Well, here's the thing. Frennett, who relies mainly on Uber for his income, knew that Uber had a program to pay drivers who couldn't work because of risk of spreading the disease. Virus. And with a doctor's note highlighting his possible exposure, he assumed the company would honor its policy. After all, they shut off his account as part of it. But Fournette and multiple other Uber drivers told Business Insider the company hasn't given them pay promised despite their heightened exposure or risk, leaving them without pay and unable to work. Some also raised concerns that shutting down accounts but not compensating drivers who follow the agreement risks disincentivizing drivers from self-quarantining in the middle of a pandemic. Yeah, no, they're absolutely right. Because look at this article from the Boston Herald. Uber and Lyft drivers seeking sick pay say they drove while ill during the pandemic. Two Massachusetts ride-sharing drivers in an industry deemed essential by Governor Charlie Baker claim they drove while sick for Uber and Lyft during the C virus crisis because they couldn't afford to stop working, new federal court filings reveal. The men made the admissions and signed affidavits in two lawsuits contesting ride-sharing's independent contractor designations, which prevented drivers from accessing minimum wage, overtime pay, and sick pay as employees. So yeah, this guy's absolutely right. When you don't pay the sick leave that you said you were going to, and you deactivate their accounts, especially when you do them both, well, guess what? There's no incentive to reveal that you might have this thing. If you're concerned about money, you're going to keep driving, and you're going to put a lot of people at risk. In fact, they're not the only person, because CNBC wrote this article by Annie Nova. Uber said it would compensate drivers who test positive for the C virus. This driver was still denied. And this driver they're talking about is someone called Attila Erizabek. I have no idea if I pronounced that correctly. I probably didn't. I'm sorry. But he applied quickly for financial assistance. The ride-sharing company promised that it would pay them. His case was unambiguous. He sent Uber a letter from his doctor which stated that he had respiratory illness and needed to self-quarantine. And so he was shocked. I don't know why, honest. I mean, maybe these drivers don't watch channels like mine and Dustin's and Rideshare Professor, but you shouldn't be shocked by this response. When the company denied him. Quote, after reviewing your documents, we have determined that you're not eligible for the financial assistance because the document does not show the symptoms or risk of the virus, the company wrote him. It then deactivated his account. Okay, so they're denying that no, we don't believe these are the symptoms of the virus, but we're going to deactivate you anyway. Yeah, no, that's nonsense. This is the driver, by the way. Looks like a nice guy, but. And he said, it's very clear I have tested positive. He reached out to the company 10 times, but wasn't getting anywhere. And Harry Campbell, my buddy Harry Campbell, founder of the Rideshare Guy, said, I was in shock, sort of the bare minimum. He was the first who heard about the story on Twitter, because Harry's on top of that with Twitter. I'm not on Twitter nearly as much as I should be. But, and of course, here's the thing. He's the bread maker for the family, and he can't pay his rent. You know, I think we are definitely going to be having a reckoning with Uber and Lyft. And if there's one thing I'm hoping that this situation kind of shows people, not just Uber drivers, but people in general, whatever job you have to have a slush fund. You have to have money. Thankfully, we do have money in the slush fund. I won't say how much. It's substantial. I'm very good at saving. So, you know what? If our income completely disappeared today, which thankfully it won't, we're getting hit, but we're not getting devastated, then we could definitely live the way we are for 3 or 4 months. So, if there's a message people should be taking from this, aside from it, is just, have a savings account. Have a savings account. But you know what? Let's end on this note here. The drivers who are driving while seeking sick pay. This is why I think Uber and Lyft need to shut down their apps immediately. This is not helping anyone. Now, I know some of you are going to say, oh, but Uber and Lyft is an essential business. Like, you can't shut down because it's essential. You know, I honestly have to be honest. I don't think essential business is really being used the way it should be. Granted, I agree with the concept of essential business. Hey, it sounds pretty simple on the surface. Whatever's essential that the world cannot live without needs to be shut down. But it's being abused. And there are businesses that are totally not essential that are still running under the guise of essential business. There are Japanese snack stores that are not forced to close right now because since they sell food, they're essential, even though the food they sell is candy and ramen noodles and fizzy pop. You have fast food restaurants that are considered essential because it's food, but that food is not essential for anyone. In fact, it's clearly bad for you. You shouldn't be eating it at all, much less when you're stuck at home bored, and hey, you can have a double Whopper with cheese and just pig out on the whole thing because you don't have anywhere to go. Liquor stores are considered essential. Why? I mean, I guess we all need a drink right now, but why? And now you have Uber and Lyft essential. You know, there's nowhere to go except the hospital. And if they want to go to the hospital, watch out. And granted, this is not all completely Uber and Lyft's fault. No one could have foreseen any of this happening. I fully understand that. But this is showing more than ever why Uber and Lyft need to shut down and why people need to stop relying on them. I know right now we have to get through this situation, but when this situation is done and the jobs start coming back, you need to get out of this. This is not a winning situation. You cannot win with these people. You know, someone had a very perfect analogy about this whole situation where they said, if you're this situation when you're getting to Uber and Lyft, you're hanging off a cliff. You're holding onto the edge of the cliff with one hand, and with the other hand, you're holding on to Uber and Lyft. Now, Uber and Lyft is doing nothing to pull themselves up, but you hold on to them hoping that at some point they will pull themselves up and then they will pick you up. No, they won't. They are perfectly content dragging you down with them. So you know what you gotta do? You gotta let them go. You gotta let them go and you gotta save yourself. It's like, don't drive during this pandemic. I think it's dangerous. Well, okay. I have to, of course, say that I know people are in tough situations. So here's what I would recommend. I won't tell you what to do. You have to do what you feel is right. But I would be taking this time, read these articles. You don't even have to watch these videos. Look these articles up. The links are below, everything. Read these articles, read other articles, look at the situation, and decide, is this really what you want to be struggling with for the next 10, 20 years of your life? Is this really what you want to be struggling with? And ask yourself that question. I think I know what most people would say. If you feel trapped, I don't know what to tell you. I would start seeking advice from people, maybe employment centers. Start seeing a way out of this, because even if Uber and Lyft survive this, you're going to be forced to be employees anyway. This behavior cannot continue. And why would you even want to work for a company that did something apparently out of the goodness of their heart and then basically has been denying people the goodness that they promised while also taking something additional away? And like I said, I think by driving, you're contributing more to the problem than you're helping. But anyway, that's my opinion. Of course, there's going to be some people who don't agree, but I'd like to know what you think. Anyway, comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.